Hey everyone, sorry I can't be there for today's AALL meeting. It's a public holiday here in the NT, and unfortunately I wanted to take the opportunity to have some downtime. But I've recorded this short video just with some tips, both as a grant reviewer and someone applying for a grant that hopefully you'll find useful. So my first tip is related to budgets on grant applications. This is obviously the last thing people tend to complete, but it does hold quite a significant amount of weight because we want to know where the money's going and how much you need and if it's realistic. So when you're preparing your budget, that's my first suggestion. Be realistic about what things cost and what you need money for. For AALL practitioners, many of them aren't in a research role. So when we look at a budget, don't ignore buyout time. So if you are going to need time to focus on this project, then you probably need to include some buyout time in your budget. If that is expensive because your casual rate for your role might be quite expensive, you might find a workaround for that. Would it be easier then for you to have a research assistant at a more administrative level to help with certain aspects of the project? So that could allow you to get more time with that research assistant for helping on the project as opposed to necessarily buying out your particular position. So there's always ways, but you need to really think that through and what's realistic within your current role and how you can conduct that research. And detail. So don't just say you want to buy equipment. What equipment? How much does it cost? Those kind of things. What are you using that equipment for? The more detail, the better, particularly in a budget. My next suggestion is to do with the literature review. So we're not looking for a really, really long 10,000 plus word literature review, but we are looking for it to be clear and concise and cover essential literature related to the project. So don't skimp on literature that is very much related to the project, because the feedback probably from the grant committee then would be, well, you haven't considered that literature. So even if it's an acknowledgement that you've also considered X, Y, and Z studies, but in order to be clear and concise, you haven't gone into detail, that can help as well. But where possible, we're all writing, teaching students to write clearly and concisely. Try and do that with the literature review in your grant application as well. And lastly, be really specific and clear about how your project links to the goals of AALL. We want to fund the research because it's going to advance our mission. So that's what we're looking for when we're asking you to link it to the goals of the AALL. The other thing I would suggest too is give yourself enough time before the submission date to have someone else read over it. So have someone be a critical friend. And if you can try and remember all those tips and just review that before you submit, I think you'll find that the feedback from the grant committee will be very positive. One more thing to bear in mind is depending on the number of grants we receive, it can be a highly competitive round. So it doesn't necessarily mean that your grant isn't a great project, it wasn't well written, but it has to be ranked. They have to be ranked, and we have to give the money to some and not to others. So it's not about being disheartened. You can go and work on that application and strengthen it and then resubmit next round. So definitely don't be put off if you aren't successful in that round, because like all grants, we're all looking for money to fund our research projects. Not everyone can get that. So don't give up, try again. All right, see you everyone.